I have to disagree with. Can I just stop you there,
things
Jem?
about.
I have to disagree with you, Jem, on that one. I don't entirely agree that it would. I can see quite a large chunk of people who might not be cinema goers and might not be film lovers who really would just not be interested in this film.
Really?
Yeah, I don't quite think it will be. It's not. It can maybe not be as engaging for some people. It'd be very different cinema for people who don't often go much. But I can see there being quite a large number of people who wouldn't quite appreciate it or understand it. They go, "What's the point?"
Even if you're not looking out for cinematic themes, it's just enjoyable.
Yeah, but it could be.
It is relatable in the content, but if you're talking about why it's done so well internationally, I think it's just because it's iconic. Like, there's nothing else really like it. Like, I knew about this film because I've seen about 500 of those bloody posters that are the front cover of the scene in uni, like bedrooms on walls and stuff like that, because it is just super iconic as a film. She is iconic.
Yeah.
She is really iconic, but the film in itself is as well. Like, it just does do a lot of things which are very different. Like, we've talked about the setup of it, like how it sets up the film at the start. That's so different to anything I've seen before. We've talked about how it's almost blurs these moments of where it feels almost, like you say, Jem, hyper realistic. Like, you see all these people, they've got all their individual shit, their problems. Like, it does feel very real there. And then they can go to bed and you can have this surreal element where you've got 4 mini passport photo shots having a conversation with one another. And it blurs those like really real, emotionally punchy moments with really surreal, stupid stuff like I've not seen before, and it just works.
It's that harder mesh, isn't it? Like it is mixing that surreal with the abnormal and unordinary. Whereas Wes Anderson's work is very much like, this is going to be out of the ordinary. This is going to be a very different film than you've seen before. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot of jokes, but we know that, and that's it. Whereas this one actually does mix in those really realistic tones throughout the whole thing. There's a lot of realism in there, but then just suddenly mixed in. It's suddenly, especially with scene changes, at least it changes so quickly, which I think this film, it must have come before most of Wes Anderson's bibliography.
It did.
Yeah.
But I think it's similar. It's similar in a sense. I think that the relations between the characters in a lot of Wes Anderson's movies are kind of, a lot of them tend to be positive, and I think that the relationships between the characters can be similar. The use in tonality in regards to kind of the color palette continuity throughout, I think is also kind of similar. I mentioned it before, that whole. I think for me, I probably agree with Guy. I don't think it is completely accessible to everyone, because it is very much kind of like it is still like an art house cinema project.
Yeah,
that's the angle is with. It's not even the foreign language thing. I think it is the way it's filmed. The way it's filmed, the simple sequences, the slightly characterized character personalities. I think it is still a very arty film that I do think would potentially. I think
some of those sequences weren't like that art, like small scale art house. Some of them were really grand scale, like cinematic. Like
it's the difference of whether it's
in the train station all the way down to the floor, following someone's boot as it like walks along the floor. You don't get that stuff in the independent film.
If you look at where the main phases of the films are sort of played out, though, it's all in quite, and I'll come on to it, sort of small settings. So the cafe is quite a condensed microcosm of Paris and interpersonal relationships. Her flat block is the same, where you have multiple relationships within the same flat block. The pornographic shop is the same. It's still taking a simple, small locations, and I think the set design was also key. And the fact, I thought her flat block, the way you can see in between the windows and the relationships between the people, I think that played a key role in it as well. I think the set design, the production design was great, as well as the camera work. But that's the way I viewed it. Even at the end, I viewed it as because the storyline, it's not a heavy storyline. It's not something that's gonna you're going to be thinking about it for ages after. It's not an action thriller movie. It's not
Is it
adrenaline.
completely-
You enjoy the film, I think, because of its aesthetic. I think that's the key kind of thing. And we've spoken about it, why it's iconic. The reason it's iconic is because of her aesthetic. That's why I think the movie sticks.
Is it completely original screenplay, or is it based on a book? Or
I
it's
think
original.
it's original.
Pretty sure it's original.
Yeah.
Is
Well,
is there anything? Can I ask a question? Is there anything that anyone felt they could have done better?
There's that question.
Like, was there anything that anyone didn't like, or you feel like they could have done better?
I was thinking about this earlier. I can't think of anything, because in terms of it knew exactly what it was trying to be. It didn't try and be something that it didn't deliver on. So it just ticked all the boxes that it was trying to achieve.
Is that 10 for you then, Jem?
No,
That's
not at
what
all.
makes 10. Come on.
No, it's longer. A 10 is actually theoretically impossible, because you can have an 9.99 recurring, but there's no perfect film. It's not a 10 for me, but that's to do with personal enjoyment as opposed to necessarily the perfect. I think in that genre, for that type of film, I think you'd be hard pressed to find anything better. Yeah.
Perhaps it was maybe lacking.
I agree with.
Sorry,
I agree with Jen in that sense that I don't think we're rating it on enjoyment, aren't we? And we each have our preconceived kind of, I guess, prejudices towards certain types of films and certain types of films that we really like. So I could say if it was a 10 for me, it would be the same film but a gangster movie, because I like gangster films. But I don't think there was anything wrong with it either.
Maybe it could have been lacking a bit of threat, a bit of danger. Did you ever feel like there was ever any peril? Was Amélie ever not going to be united with Nino at the end?
At one point I thought that maybe that would be possibly the moral, that like she needed to get her shit together, and maybe she did get her shit together. I mean, it was convincing enough for me to think that might be the case.
When she was crying, right near the end, when she was crying and thinking, when the beads moved and it wasn't him, that could have easily been like, too bad. But then it was obviously fixed quite nicely with the tape from the old man saying, go get her, go get him. And that's what rounds it off in a nice romantic story. But it could have easily gone the other way. There could have possibly been a bit more of a sense of peril in terms of the relationship. Maybe she was in charge a little bit too much in terms of that. Perhaps Nino could have had a bit more about him to go, well, screw this then. Like, especially in the cafe when she wrote on the board. I know he walked off and she put a note in his pocket, but there could have been a sense of him going, well, I'm not going to play this game or something. But really snatching at straws here. What about you, James? What did you think?
I'm not sure it needed that, in my opinion. I think the reason why I partly liked it is because it is quite a simple film. As we said, there's nuances throughout, but it's quite simple. It's just like it's a well tied off storyline. Doesn't meander too much, as we mentioned, because it ticks off all the kind of character backgrounds early on, so you kind of just appreciate the flow of the movie.
But was it too safe in that way? It's a very simple story. Was it too safe?
Yeah, it is quite a safe film. But I think the reason why it's not boring, once again, is I think the aesthetic of it. I think if the aesthetic wasn't so kind of striking and the way it was filmed so interesting and
riveting,
the slightly, as I keep using the word, caricatured personalities just so kind of interesting, I think they keep you tied in. But it is quite a safe, simple film. I think the fact that I just read that he used to do short movies, I think explains a lot as to why it is so kind of neat and everything's aligned.
Yeah, I was unaware he did short films. What about you, James? Was there anything you disliked or anything you think could have been better?
The reason I asked the question is because I was thinking of it myself, and I was like, I don't really think that.
It's difficult, isn't it?
I don't really think there is anything. Like, I'm listening to us all talking, and very rarely have we been for half an hour, 40 minutes, just chatting like continuous praise directed towards a piece of cinema.
I'm so glad none of you have been able to identify these major flaws that I couldn't.
Yeah.
There's
It's always reaffirming, isn't it, when
you
haven't missed something glaring.
I think you summarise it really well, Tom. Though, in terms of you view it as a whole, and whatever small, minute things detract from it, it's covered by all these other things, and the aesthetics and the characters and all of that. It just makes for some really engaging and just riveting cinema to watch for an hour and 53 minutes, was it? Yeah, overall, really good fun, and it won lots of awards. I think it got turned into a fun fact as well. It got turned into a musical. In America.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, it would play out well on stage.
Yeah, the Americans did it, and I think it had a run in LA or whatever, much more recently. But yeah, I mean, as a whole, it was really, really good. It's magnificent. C'est magnifique. Yeah, feel free, Jem, to rate it.
Give that an 8.2.
Liam?
8.3.
Tom?
8.5, and only because I probably would have given it higher, but I think I stuck my sort of hole in the sand, I guess, a bit by giving the good, the bad, the ugly. I think I gave it 8.6 or 8.7, and I think I slightly enjoyed that more. But yeah, I thought it was great.
Well, I've given it 8.3. James?
I'll give it 8.5.
8.5.
Well.
Gets so tight when it gets above sort of 8, doesn't it? All these differentiating between all the different boundaries becomes so tight.
It just becomes relative.
Yeah.
It is difficult when you think, okay, so that is the perfect, Parisian rom-com type film, and you think, okay, so why isn't it a 10 then? In that category, as you asked me, you think,
I don't think this film makes a great film. Like, you can have a film which doesn't necessarily do anything wrong, but it just doesn't hit you.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, slap you around the face with it.
And people are always going to have personal preference.
Yeah.
And my 10 is going to be very different from your 10.
It's 8.3 overall, which I think is totally fair.
Where's that in the ratings?
I'll tell you in a second. Talk amongst yourselves. Talk about how marvellous it was. It is really interesting how it gets so tight.
I think there was any significance to the death of Diana as like the backdrop to the film.
I think about that actually.
No.
I think I was quite intrigued by how they say on the fateful night something important happened, and then it cuts to Diana dying, and actually that wasn't the important thing at all. What was important was that she dropped the lid. Yeah, it just amused me quite a bit because she immediately turned off Diana as soon as she picked up the lid. If anything, it
just one of those funny.
It was just a bit of humour.
Yeah. It puts Amélie at number 10, so it hits the top 10. It knocks Baby Driver off 10th.
It knocks what out?
Baby Driver.
It's a better film than Baby Driver.
Yeah.
Baby Driver got 8.3 as well. So Baby Driver is 11th and Amélie is 10th.
I was getting
what else have you got above that?
Getting Edgar Wright vibes from the film occasionally when some of the transitions. I was thinking some Edgar Wright shit going on here.
Maybe that it's a Edgar Wright style just sort of fits around 8.3 and that's about it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing. Just above it is Joker on 8.4. So
yeah, I put Joker above it.
It's tight, but that's a good success for Amélie. A foreign film as well. That said, actually, and I've just completely fallen on my own sword here. A Portrait of a Lady on Fire is got 8.4. My question, and that's a French film. Is it better than Amélie? I'm gonna have to have a think about that.
I'd give City of God like a good 8.7, 8.8. That is high for me for a foreign language.
Yeah, I give that.
In terms of foreign language film, I'd have to go and have a good thing.
Myself.
Well, what did you give it, guy? 8.6 or 8.7?
Sorry?
8.6, yeah.
Give what?
What, City of God?
The Bandit.
Oh, The Bandit, yeah.
No. 6.8.
A 2.
Savage.
And I stand by that.
That's not bad for Amélie. 10th place in the QTAS top list.
I'm happy with that.
Yeah, it's good.
For once.
Good
It's above A River Runs Through It.